It's just, I want this stuff now. So I had kind of Santa Claus God. And I remember one time, I was miserable at a job, and my ex-husband and I were hiking. We're on a hike, beautiful hike in Colorado, and the aspens were changing. And it was, for those of you who've never seen a Colorado sky in the fall, it can be sapphire blue. It's gorgeous. And then we've got these beautiful golden aspen trees. So we're hiking, and I'm mad. I'm mad because I'm doing the deal. I'm working my program. I'm sober. I've got sponsees. I have a sponsor. And where's my pot of gold? Where's my rainbow? Where's my perfect job? It's certainly not there, because I hate my job and my boss is an idiot. And I am literally clambering up this, I'm just stomping up this mountain with my head down, leaving my ex-husband in the dust. And he's like, what are you doing? We got to the top, and I literally had a breakdown at the top of that mountain. And I mean, a breakdown. I'm crying, and I'm like, it's just not fair. Like, I'm doing all this stuff, and I'm not getting what I want. I'm not getting what I want. I'm not happy. And I'll never forget, my ex-husband said to me, do you think you ought to call your sponsor? And I just took his head off. I chopped his head off right then and there. I said, why? So she can tell me how perfect her life is. And I just, like, I lost it. And I sat there and I sobbed it on the top of that mountain. And something happened to me. And I knew that things had to change. And I knew that I had a resentment towards God and towards this, I just knew that something had to change. And so when I was hiking down, I looked, I realized that my husband asked me when we got to the top of that mountain, he said, why are you going so fast? And I said, I'm just looking for the perfect place to have lunch. What? And that, like, seriously, you're looking for the perfect place to have lunch. So, but it wasn't that. I was looking for my perfect life, and I wasn't getting it, and I was mad. And so as we were walking back down, everything shifted. My whole perspective shifted. And instead of looking down at the trail, I looked up, and I saw this beautiful sapphire sky, and this golden, these golden leaves against it. And it was breathtaking. And I went home and I called my sponsor, and I did a full set of work. I went through the steps again at that point, and I got to shed another layer. And I got to realize that this program at that time really is about growing up. And who wants to do that? I didn't want to do that. I don't want to grow up. I want to stay a child and have all the blessings just rain down on me. I wanted to then. And that's a Santa Claus God, right? I wanted God to just give me what I wanted, just because I was doing all the right stuff. And that's not how it works. I have to do the inner work. And so I began, it begins with our steps. There is not one problem that I have had in 30 years of sobriety that will not yield to either a step, concept, or a tradition. Not one. I've had a lot of things, obviously. I mean, you don't go through 30 years and have nothing happen. I mean, I've been through that husband that did that hike with me, we ended up getting a divorce, and we were able to have an amicable divorce. We're still friends to this day. That doesn't happen when, with my prior, like, if you don't do what I want, I'm going to punish you. If you're not, I was a punisher, I would just leave. I would leave relationships mad. I don't do that today. So anyway, I want to say that again, there really is not one problem that I can think of that hasn't yielded to a step, tradition, or concept. So the work begins with the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And when I look at if I'm seeking balance and maturity in my life, which is what our essay is talking about, seeking balance and maturity, I have to begin with that humility towards a higher power, the humility to want to do this work, because the work is the work in Alcoholics Anonymous is humbling. It's not easy to look at ourselves and pull out all the character defects. And when we get into a lot of fear, at least when I get into a lot of fear, that's when my character defects kind of come raging to the surface. I don't know about you guys, but when I have fear of not getting what I want or losing something that I have, that's when all my character defects tend to come climbing out of the closet and say, "Hey, here I am again. Look at me. Here we go." And so if I'm truly immersing myself on a daily basis in the step work, and especially in steps 10, 11, and 12, then I'm less likely to be taken over by fear. Because at the root of it, at the bottom of it, I mean, if you look at what the essay says, that essay that we just read, and thank you for that reading, it talks about fear. It talks about how, we have to examine every single disturbance, great or small. It doesn't say just the big stuff. It says great or small. Every disturbance, we find that we have an unhealthy dependence or an unhealthy, and it's consequently unhealthy demand. So with God's help, we continually surrender these demands. And our book talks about, everybody knows the difference between an expectation and a demand. And I didn't. I just thought that in the beginning, I just thought you should do, because I know what people should be doing, right? And I had a lot of unhealthy dependencies, and I had a lot of fear, and the fear was eating me alive. And that's why step 10, if I look at step 10 as to how I can get some emotional sobriety, it starts for me right there. Because fear is the driving force between, fear and selfishness. It says in step 10, we watch for these things. It doesn't say we react to them when they come up, which we should, but it also says we actively watch for them. And I think that was the difference when I started to actively watch, as opposed to just making an amend after the fact, right? Or better yet, let's talk about fear. When I would get into fear, what would happen to me is I would spiral. I would go down the fear hole, and it would consume me. And I would literally be wrapped in fear around a situation, usually not getting what I want or losing what I have. So I'm wrapped in fear, right? And I lived in fear all the time of what people thought of me, of, whether or not I was going to keep that guy or keep that job or keep that, whatever it was that I deemed important at the time. I was constantly afraid of losing it. And I remember sitting at work, and I was a good employee. It wasn't like I was a bad employee. I was actually a really good employee. I showed up on time and I did my work, and I was relatively intelligent and had enough communication skills to be able to make it look good, right? But I was in constant fear. Now, if a door shut behind me, I was sure that they were back there talking about how they needed to get rid of me, right? I don't know if you can see my shirt. It says, love is greater than fear. I love to wear this when I speak because it reminds me that love truly is greater than fear, but I was in constant fear. And I can honestly tell you that today that has completely changed. I'm not in constant fear. I have appropriate fear today. I had fear coming here, talking to you guys. I have a lot of regard for this meeting. I had some fear, but it didn't consume me because I have a God that's bigger and a God that's filled with love, right? And I know that God speaks through me. And that is such a comforting thought. And that wouldn't have happened in early sobriety. I wouldn't have known that. It took time, and it took time to cultivate that relationship with that power. But today I have that faith, and that's true faith. My husband had a horrible accident back in October. He hit something, a concrete thing on his bicycle, and he broke his femur. He broke 8 ribs. He had 3rd-degree AC separation of the clavicle or the shoulder joint, and he had a punctured lung. So there was a lot of fear, but it wasn't all consuming. It was appropriate fear. It happened. I was able to have the fear when, like, oh, he's on the operating table and it's taking 5 hours to put him back together. There was fear, don't get me wrong, but I didn't let that completely consume me for the whole time he was in the hospital. I can't describe it except to tell you that it felt so different from the kind of fear that I would get myself wrapped up in the past. In the past, I would let it completely consume me. And to the point where I would say, it's saying that my internet connection's unstable. Maggie, give me a thumbs up if I'm okay. Am I back? I'm not sure if I'm back or not. Okay, thanks, Dave. All right, so you know, the fear that I have today is, it feels appropriate for the situation. It doesn't feel like it's out of control like it used to. And that's because of step 10. Step 10 tells us to watch for it. Step 10 tells us to then take that fear to our higher power and ask what God would have us be, right? Step 10, when we're in resentment, tells me to, here it says, I'm just going to read you what it says, because I think it's so important. This thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commenced this way of life, not half-heartedly. We vigorously commenced this way of life as we cleaned up the past. We have entered the world of the spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for a lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. We discuss them immediately with someone. We make amends quickly if we've harmed anyone. And we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. And then that last line is the line that I often forget. Love and tolerance of others is our code. Right? Okay, so then that just takes me into step 11. And I love step 11 because step 11 is that step where this is where we actually get to grow in understanding and effectiveness. And if we're talking about wanting emotional sobriety, we have to have this connection with a power greater than ourselves. And it doesn't matter what you call it. You just have to have a connection with a God that you can do business with. And so it says in step 11 that when we retire at night, it gives us a series of things that we're supposed to do, some things that we're supposed to ask ourselves. We're supposed to say, were we resentful, selfish? We're supposed to ask, were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? So if we didn't catch it during the day in a 10 step, we're going to catch it here. And then it says, do we owe an apology? Have we kept something to ourselves which should be discussed with another person at once? Were we kind and loving towards all? What could we have done better? All right. Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time? Or were we thinking of what we could do for others, of what we could pack into the stream of life? And here's the part that I love, that I absolutely love, and I drive it home to every woman that I sponsor. It says we must be careful not to drift into worry or morbid reflection, for that would diminish our usefulness to others. And what do we do usually if we've made a mistake? We drift in, we beat ourselves up, we say we just feed that story that we're not good enough, that we're just not good enough, right? And I don't think that's healthy. I think that's why that sentence is in there. And it says, if we beat ourselves up, or if we drift into worry or morbid reflection, I mean, what good is that doing? We're just blocking ourselves off from getting closer to God and being of service and useful. And then it says, after we make this review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should we take. And we don't try to fix it ourselves. We don't try to figure it out. We ask God what corrective measures should be taken. And if I'm relying on this power greater than myself, if I'm trying to get true emotional sobriety and stability in my life, I've got to start doing this, not really doing this. So I did, and it actually worked. Shocking, but it actually did work. Okay, so then I wake up in the morning, and on awakening, first off, for years I didn't do this. I would do it once in a while. I would do it if I was in trouble or really scared about something. I would do this 11th step reading, right? But I went for years kind of toe dipping, once in a while, when it got bad. And it was fine. I stayed sober, but I'm not going to get this. The emotional sobriety for me came when I got really disciplined with this, when I got really consistent with this, when I started to do it every single day. Right? When I do my 11th step every day, my night review, my morning reflection and prayer. So it says on awakening, we think about the 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day. Before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, asking it that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. Under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties with assurance. For after all, God gave us brains to use. Our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives. In thinking about our day, we may face indecision. We may not be able to determine what course to take. Here we ask God for inspiration and intuitive thought or a decision. It doesn't say we call all our friends and get all their input and then do whatever the heck we want. It doesn't say that. It also doesn't say we flip chart out the decision, pro and con. These are all the reasons. Like, you can do that, but that's not what it says. If we're being God reliant, I'm so sorry, you guys, saying unstable connection again. So I hope I'm back. Somebody give me, Dave, or somebody give me a thumbs up if I'm back. Anyway, it doesn't say that in that 11th step that we're supposed to flip chart out our decisions. It says that we are supposed to somebody's telling me I'm okay, I think. Oh, good. Everything. My voice didn't cut out. Great. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Belinda. All right. So let me just get this back up. Here we go. So it doesn't say that we're supposed to do that. It says we're supposed to ask God for this intuitive thought, inspiration, or decision. I personally, when I'm on the fence about something, I'll ask for that. And then if I think I'm supposed to, if I feel like I think I should go down this road or I should go down that road, I will say, God, I think I'm supposed to go this direction, bless it or block it. And if it gets blocked, I have to be willing to walk away, right? And that's hard, because sometimes you want what you want. And I've done that, you guys. I've pressed through and made decisions based on self, which later placed me in a position to be hurt. And the emotional sobriety piece of that is then I just have to be willing to pay the consequences like a big girl. I don't get to go running to everybody and say, oh, I messed up. Well, you made that decision. I made that decision knowing that I didn't bring God into it. I didn't even think about saying bless it or block it, because what if it got blocked, or it got blocked and I charged through anyway, right? That's on me. And I don't get to, cry about it afterwards. Well, I can cry about it, but it doesn't matter. I have to be willing to pay those consequences. And some decisions I've made, and I have been willing to pay those consequences. All right. So then it says, what used to be the hunch. Oh, we're often surprised at, wait, here, I have to go back. We ask God for inspiration, intuitive thought, or decision. We relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. Really? I mean, seriously, who doesn't struggle? I do, because that's hard. We don't struggle. We are surprised at how the right answers come after we have tried this for a while. What used to be the hunch or the occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. Being still inexperienced and having just made conscious contact with God, it's not probable that we're going to be inspired at all times. We might pay for this presumption in all sorts of absurd actions. I was so scared when I read that the first time. Like, what if I do something absurd? I mean, seriously, you guys, I think about it. Like, I lived my life drinking, and I'm worried about making some absurd decisions in sobriety. Like, that was insane, right? That was crazy. But I was so scared. I was so scared of it. So anyway, it says that our thinking will, as time passes, it doesn't say right now, it says as time passes, be more and more in a plane of inspiration. We come to rely on it. We usually conclude the period of meditation with a prayer that we be shown throughout the day what our next step is to be. That's pretty powerful. Throughout the day, show me what my next step. That's total God reliance right there. And that we be given whatever we need to take care of those problems. Holy cow. I mean, I'm striving for perfection. How much more perfect can that be? That's pretty perfect, right? Show me everything and give me everything. If only I rely on God, but it's not, it takes practice. This takes practice. We ask especially for freedom from self-will and are careful never to make any requests for ourselves only. We may ask for ourselves if others will be helped. We are careful never to pray for our own selfish ends. Many of us have wasted a lot of time doing that, and it doesn't work. You can easily see why. If circumstances warrant, we ask our wives or friends to join us in morning meditation. My husband and I do meditate together every morning. And that was just something I invited him to do with me. And he readily accepted. He said, oh, I think that would be fun. My husband's not an alcoholic or in Al-Anon. He's just a guy who can have a drink occasionally if he likes. And he thinks Alcoholics Anonymous is amazing. He thinks this way of life is amazing. And he loves to meditate with me. If we belong to a religious denomination, which requires a definite morning devotion, we attend to that also. If not members of religious bodies, we sometimes select and memorize a few set prayers which emphasize the principles we have been discussing. There are many helpful books also. Suggestions about these may be obtained from one's priest, minister, or rabbi. Be quick to see where religious people are right. Make you what they offer. There's so much out there if we're seeking, so much out there to find in all different kinds of areas, religions. I like to gather things from all places to enrich and enlarge my spiritual life. Then it says, as we go through the day, we pause when agitated or doubtful and ask for the right thought or action. We constantly remind ourselves that we're no longer running the show. So it should be a daily thing. For me, it's got to be a daily thing. I've got to be telling myself, I'm not running the show here, because then the biggest alcoholic character defect, control, freakishness, rears its ugly head, right? And I want to control how people are perceiving me or behaving or thinking or, whatever. It says, thy will be done. Then we are in much less danger of fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. We become much more efficient. We do not tire so easily, for we are not burning energy foolishly. So we're working harder, smarter, not harder, as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves. It works. It really does, right? And then that brings me to the 12th step, service. If behind every decision or every disturbance that I have is an unhealthy dependence or demand, if I don't start surrendering this stuff, if I don't eventually surrender that to God, then I'm just going to be in calamity my whole life. I'll be in disturbance my whole life. And if I learn how to surrender those disturbances and unhealthy demands to God, only then will God match my calamity with serenity. And I believe that because it's happened for me today. I'm not saying that I don't have occasional calamity, but my goal, and I remember thinking to myself, it was so easy when I would go through something hard in my life. I would think to myself, God, isn't it, after it was over, I would think, God, isn't that amazing how God got me through that? Isn't it amazing how my higher power showed up? It was always in retrospect. I'm okay in retrospect. And the challenge, especially in the last, I want to say the second half of my sobriety, so the last 15 years, has been, how can I be okay during the disturbance, during the calamity? Because that's really the test here for me. I want to be okay during it. I don't want it to be like always I'm okay afterwards, but I'm a total disaster during it. My husband said to me when he had his accident, he said, honey, you got to promise me that you won't stop going to your meetings, that you won't stop taking your phone calls from your girls, that you won't stop teaching yoga, that you won't stop doing all the things that are really important to you. AA at the top, right? And I promised him, I said, I promise I won't. And I didn't. I did all those things. I kept tapped in. And that allowed me to, like I said, actually walk through that really scary time and not be consumed with fear. And the bedevilments, all the bedevilments have been at some point in my life. I don't have time to go through them, but have been replaced by promises. And I'm going to leave you with a really nice, I think it's a really nice prayer or explanation of what is prayer. And I'll just read it to you because it's a beautiful, I think it's beautiful. Do you pray? I love this interpretation of prayer. What is prayer? Prayer doesn't just happen when we kneel or put our hands together and focus and expect things from God. Thinking positive and wishing good for others is a prayer. When you hug a friend, that is a prayer. When you cook something to nourish your family and friends, that is a prayer. When we send off our near and dear ones and say, drive safely and be safe, that is a prayer. When you are helping someone in need by giving your time and energy, you are praying. When you forgive someone in your head, that is a prayer. Prayer is a vibration, a feeling, a thought. Prayer is the voice of love, friendship, genuine relationships. Prayer is an expression of your silent being. Keep praying always. Thank you so much for allowing me to come here and speak to you tonight. I've really enjoyed being with you all. I'm so sorry that my internet connection was unstable. That's all I've got. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Your internet connection was fine looking from this end.
Good.
In this forum, we, after the person shares, you have to put your microphone back on. We asked them to call on a few people that they would like to hear from and or that just sparks their visual interest. So.
Okay. Perfect. And then I would like to hear from, let's see, how about, I see Clinton on here. Hi, Clinton.
Hello, Kelly. It's so nice to see you. And I really enjoyed your share tonight. I was, you're one of my favorite people. With Dawn's introduction, I have to concur with that, you know, I pay attention to people. You know, I don't see you often, but every time I see you, you're always, you know, giving, and you're such a delight to be around. You're always smiling, and it's just a pleasure to know you and get to spend time with you. I really do thank you. I really liked, I mean, I have found that I really need to spend so much more time in 10 and 11. I mean, I have had a meditation practice for many years, and I can prove it on my app. And but there's still so much more. There's just, I keep finding so much more. So I really try to stay involved in 10 and 11. And it's great to see you, and thank you. Thanks for calling on me, I think.
Thank you, Clinton. All right, how about Nancy, my friend from Cambridge?
Hi, Kelly. Nancy, alcoholic. It was so good to hear you. I'm just delighted to be here, and I can testify to your ability to give by your welcoming me when we went to Colorado. Well, you were in Colorado, but we went to FOTS. But I so appreciated the notion that there's no problem that you've ever had that wasn't treatable by a step, a tradition, or a concept. I'm going to have to work on my problems being treated by the concept, but the pandemic has been really good for my spiritual life and my 10 and 11. It's not that I wasn't doing them before, but I think the quiet that I experienced of being, inside and by myself so much, just opened up some space for me to have a more conscious contact with the God of my understanding. And it's something that I've always yearned for. And it came when it came. I'm a very impatient recovering person. I want to be better now. In 2 years, I wanted to have 30. And so I don't know where I get the idea that I'm not as far as I'm supposed to be. I don't even know what that means. I heard a guy talking about how he wanted to make a name for himself in an anonymous program. And it's not exactly that, but it's like, I want to be better sooner, So 36 years later, I'm still waiting. But I've really gotten to notice that, and that equanimity that Bill describes, that you so well described, about, being able to stay grounded and not perfect, but, to kind of ride those waves as opposed to, hitting other people with my surfboard, I guess. But anyway, it's lovely to see you live. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. How many people do you want me to call on, Dawn?
2 more.
Okay. How about John H?
Hey, I'm John. I'm an alcoholic. Thank you
John.
so much, Kelly. I love you so much. Everybody, Kelly is a person that walks the talk. If it wasn't for a simple phone call to Kelly, my dad and I wouldn't be the big smiling faces you see at Fox. And I really heard everything that you said, but it dinged off on me when you said, God, show me and give me everything I want, and God always shows me what I need to do, but God rarely just shows up with a new Ferrari in the front yard, as I'm sitting in a different place than I usually sit in my racing simulator. I'm not going to get a Ferrari, but I can act like it. And I'm just really grateful to be here, and I missed Denver Thursday night, but I keep coming here, and so that's all. I just love you so much, and thank you for being you and your awesome husband, who just keeps showing up better than any other of the AAs. He's just it's just great. Brent's always there, and Brand, and just thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, John. It's so hard to see. There's so many people on. How about somebody I don't know? How about Joel from Phoenix?
Oh my God. Kelly, I've met you, but you probably don't remember me. I've been up the Fellowship of the Spirit. I didn't go this past summer, but I've always loved your shares when I was up there. Thank you. You just touched so many good points about emotional sobriety. I'm from the Keep It Simple school, and I find the reason why I am emotionally upset is because my spiritual malady is kicking up again, and I got to get back to. You're right; those pages you read will answer all those conundrums that I find myself in. And I have to remember again. I like simple stuff. I let go and let God. I meditate on. When I'm all screwed up in the middle of the day, let go and let God. Another one of my mantras is relax, God's in charge. And, it is about prayer. I find prayer to be just simply talking to God. I don't know if people have seen Fiddler on the Roof, but Atevia is walking along, his mule is crippled, and he has to schlep his milk wagon, and he just talks to God. And I think that's what prayer is for me. But thank you. You were tremendous. You did a great job.
Thank you, Joel. Hey, a couple of people have put in the chat, they wanted to know who that prayer was by that I read at the end. I don't know. I don't know. It was just something I found somewhere and I just thought it was marvelous. So sorry, I can't give you an answer to that.
Well, to piggyback on that, one of the things that you said during your talk was be quick to see where religious people are right, and that you're a seeker and that you read a lot of things. And if you don't mind, what are a couple of those things and what do they bring forward for you?
Well, that's a great question. I have changed so many, I have gone through so many iterations of what my spiritual life has looked like, and right now I'm doing a lot of yoga. You know, believe it or not, yoga for me has been a really good spiritual way of life. I can the way that I live my life, or the way that the things, the teachings that I've learned from yoga have actually been able to tie in so well to the 12 steps. And so right now, that is mostly the spiritual path that I'm following. I do 3 of the AA approved readings. I do, I can tell you, I do the 24-hour or daily reflections. I do 24 hours a day, and I do keep it simple. So I do those 3 every morning, and then I read pages 86 to 88 every morning. That's kind of how I start my day. And then sometimes I have a couple of the readings that I just read from. There's a book called Spiritual Warrior Goddess Training that I've been reading, which is actually a really good book. And so that's kind of what I do. And then I meditate after I've read those pages in the big book. So that's it.
Thank you. I appreciate you talking about that with us. And now we'll open the meeting up for anybody who wants to share. Maybe raise your hand, or I can see you in the participants list if you raise your hand. And also I can see you if you wave at me or something. I'm just getting used to. Tom, go ahead.
That was quick. I wasn't ready for that. My name's Tom. I'm an alcoholic. And
Hi, Tom.
God, this is fabulous to be. This is like being at FOTS, Kelly. It's fantastic. Really great. One of the things I've been thinking is Kathy P's on here and you're on here. And 24 years ago, this coming month, we were having our first meetings. You were on my committee for FOTS. And it's that many years ago, and we're still here and we're still doing it, you know. But your share was absolutely perfect. I mean, I've always, you know, people have been talking about this letter forever, and all I ever thought was, hell, you get to emotional sobriety by working the 12 steps the way they're outlined in the big book. I mean, you know, I mean, it kind of covers all the bases, and you know, especially 10 and 11, you know. So, you know, that's fantastic. I had some takeaways from FOTS this last summer. One of them was COVID that lasted for 3 weeks. That was kind of a bummer. But what I keep coming back to this, I've been listening to the CDs, and Sanjay, who said he had gone to India, and he told this guru that he said, I've got this battle going on, you know, between my ego and my spirit. And he said, the guy said, it's not a battle, it's just fluctuation. You know, that's just part of the human experience. And so I've been holding on to that, you know, and I think that'll always be the case. I mean, how could it not be, you know? And, but the thing you read about, you know, saying many times each day, thy will be done. I remember David Huff used to set his watch, and I don't know if you remember this, in every hour, the alarm would go off. And when it did, he'd say, "Thy will be done." And that's how he got himself into that pattern of doing that. And I think it's just the thing with me, it's the thing of remembering, that there is an unseen world, that like the three-dimensional world that I'm considering, is the truth and the reality is not all there is, that there's a whole other thing going on, and that God is real. And, there's an unseen world, and coming back to that again and again and again. One of the things, I've kind of been on this lately, that thing about, worry, remorse, or morbid reflection, like don't get into that. And the book says don't do it because, it would limit your usefulness to others. But what I've been thinking about that, if I do something that goes against my morals and values, and I don't feel any guilt at all or any shame about it, I'm a sociopath. I don't have a conscience. But if I stay there beating myself about it, then that's an exercise in selfishness and self, right? Me. I'm so terrible, and I just wallow in this stuff, and so it's just more self. It's just like I'm the greatest, I'm the worst, whatever it is. But the common denominator is me. And of course that limits my usefulness to others, because I'm entrenched in me. So I'm like everybody else. I just love you to death. I knew it was going to be supremely honest, which it was. And it was really, for me, it was like being at FOTS, hearing your share. I know it was for Juanita too. Thanks.
Thanks,
Thank
Tom.
you, Tom.
Belinda from Tennessee and New Jersey.
Hi, thanks, Don, and thank you so much, Kelly. I've missed this group because it's been a lot going on, and it was a really good segue back and needed. And the first one I was going to say is I have a friend who was at a lay apostolate with Madonna House that's in Combermere. And she told me, we were discussing prayer, and I was talking about just that my uncomfortableness with people say, well, I'll pray for you, or, I'm going to pray for this or that. And that's fine, whatever anybody else does. It's just not what I do. I'm more of a, like what's talked about, just talk, and that's me. But I just have to say, I don't know what God's will is for anybody, or our higher power, or whatever. And I can't wish for you if that happened to you and something, that wasn't right. I don't want to wish. I don't know. Anyway, she said that Catherine, who was the founder of Madonna House, had told her about that prayer was in what you did and everything you did that was good, that, cooking dinner for somebody, sleeping, just all those things were prayers, anything that you do. And so I don't know if she wrote it. I'll have to ask my friend if she knew or whatever. But it was just interesting that that was actually a prayer written out. But we talked about the goal of being the emotional sobriety after not being emotional, like everything is okay now, and wanting to be okay before it's okay. And that's really been the goal, or what I've been trying to do. And it's hard because it just like you get bammed on the head, and I was like, everything's good. Everything's going to be okay. And sometimes you just got to keep going. And it's really just sticking with the program. I think it's like it was said, it's all in the words. It's all in the first 164 pages. And that's all. Thank you, though.
Thanks, Belinda.
Thank you, Belinda. And Kathy Perez? We lost her.
Unmute. You're muted.
Sorry.
Unmute.
Okay, hi, it's me. Sorry. I've only been using Zoom like the rest of us, like 2.5 years, and I still don't know how to do the damn mute thing. I gotta tell you, thank God I've been on the slow bus or the slow train or whatever kind of thing I've been on. I used to want things because I'm impulsive and I'm poorly directed to have just like this splash of thing. That's what you remind me of, Kelly, is that energy. It's just like I just need it right now. So now that I am a Denverite and you're just a couple of neighborhoods over from me, you were so helpful. And I think one of the things that I love about us, and I love a lot about us, and that is we were talking about that on our walk recently, is that we actually show up. We show up. You know my story, so I won't go into that, but I don't know if all of you do. So you brought food to the Airbnb. I mean, you came over and gave me stuff, and it just is remarkable. It's remarkable how selfish and self-centered alcoholics can learn to think about somebody other than themselves. And Tom, when you shared fellowship of the spirit, and then you had I don't even know, I had a brain injury at the time to nominate me as chair for the next year. It's like, holy smokes, I have very little memory, except I remember counting out I was treasurer, counting out $7,000 in cash from that weekend. And I was obsessed with making sure I counted every penny because my brain wasn't working so well. I'd had a brain injury earlier that summer. So anyway, I was counting out the $7,000, and then I'm thinking, how am I going to get this to the bank? I can't think straight. So I was obsessed with the $7,000 in cash and making sure I got it to the bank, which I did. And I have, it's been an interesting thing. And one of the things I like to say about emotional sobriety, and what I've been learning in my current experience is, you know what? I don't have to be anywhere other than where I am. So there was a time in my life that I didn't know how to feel what I needed to feel because I would drink over it. It was a sunny day. Let's lighten that up by drinking some. It was a bad day. Well, let's just take care of that by drinking some. And so when the fire happened and the things that happened before the fire, my relationship broke up. And today I got some kind of sad news. My daughter's, not my daughter, gosh, I think of it like my daughter, my niece, my sister's kiddo is in ICU after surgery didn't go well today. And you know what? I have learned how to feel what I need to feel, and I don't crumble or fall apart in it. And I think we are pious. I'm going to be a little arrogant in my own piety at the moment. We are pious when we say, just like, say a prayer, you shouldn't feel that, because like bullshit, actually. I didn't get sober to not live who I am as a human being. And so that I've been experienced deep sorrow, and I'm writing a book about it because you know what? I'm sad. I was sad for a long time, and sadness is not depression. Bill's talking about depression. If you've got depression, see a doctor. It's more than just prayer. Depression is beyond sadness. And some of us are depressed and some of us are not. And I'm not a psychiatrist, so I don't know what you got going for you. But I know that when this fire happened and I felt like I was exploded, because of the work that I did, I also had the awareness that I am going to fall apart. And I knew you were going to catch me, and you caught me. And I've been held and I've been fed, and I'm sitting on furniture that people have given me, and call them fancy friends. I'm not a fancy person, but I have a lot of fancy friends who have given me a lot of their fancy things. And I'm grateful for that, And so I don't even know where I'd be after this fire if it weren't for all of you. And then this breakup that I had, and then another breakup that I had, and now my niece is in the ICU. And you know what? It just is what it is. It's sadness, and it's not impossible. I don't need to drink over it. I don't need to abuse myself over it. I don't need to not cry. I don't need to pretend it's anything other than it is. All I need to do, and what you do for me, and what we do for each other, and it's a weird little thing, we get it though, even though we can't define it, is we are present with each other with whatever's happening for each other. And that in and of itself is remarkable. So when you showed up with groceries at my Airbnb, and you've been so kind to me, Kelly, and my sponsees, a couple are in the meeting, and Nancy from Cambridge twice in 1 week, I see this woman I had never met before. And so I love us, and thank you for sharing, Kelly. I look forward to when you're coming back.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Kathy.
Kath.
Dave H.
Hey, Kelly, thank you so much for finally doing this. It's I've been doing it for coming here for 2 years. Always wondered if you'd ever show up. You always say, "Oh no, I got my home group on Thursday nights. I can't make it." And you've been pretty loyal to your home group, but every time we come on this, it's as Tom says, a mini FOTS, so to speak. And really want to thank you, but you know who I need to thank, and he's not there, and I was hoping he was going to be there, and that's Bran. And for asking you not to change and to keep taking phone calls, because you took the phone call from John, shared a number with him. I didn't meet you for another 5 months in upstate New York. And it's the whole thing's amazing when you say how God has got through all this. And I've mentioned it before, and I keep learning more and more and more and more all the time. And for just real quick, I surrendered about 1.5 miles west of where Kelly sits right now. Made the decision to go to Denver to talk to John and try to control my drinking. Had to surrender to the police out there. That consequently ended up with the phone call to Kelly, and Kelly saying, "Oh, I know some guy. Here's his number. He runs a good program." Well, that guy's about 1.5 miles to Kelly's east right now on another island. And that guy 12-stepped me into a meeting, and it's all because of a phone call and somebody who accepted that phone call. And so yeah, the stuff you said and ran down through is you laid it out very beautifully. And the other one in there is I've firmly become to believe that you really can't get through anything unless the answer's in the book. And you added tradition and concept to it. And that last paragraph's really funny. I turned my will over to God, and God's going to walk us through. Take my hand and away we go. So thank you so much. You're a stunning example, and your sacrifice for Brand over the past year, what he's gone through is just phenomenal. So,
Oh, thanks, Dave.
thanks.
Thank
Have a great
you.
night.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Nicole?
Hi, Nicole Alcoholic.
Hi, Nicole.
I was not supposed to be here tonight. Had no idea this existed, but because I have been in I hit another bottom in sobriety. My sobriety date is September 13th of 2016. And my sobriety date's coming up here, and I'm about to hit 6 years. And this 5th year has rocked me. People always talk about how you get your marbles back at 5 and you don't learn how to play with them until you're 10. And I'm just like, my marbles are all over the floor. I was storming around the neighborhood, yelling and crying about God. And after having cried since Monday, my eyes are bloodshot red. They burn. Like, I have not cried this much since maybe like year 3 or even year 1. And I call Kelly, and she tells me the same story that she just told y'all tonight. And then invites me to this, right? And so I am just beyond grateful. I'm annoyed because it means that God is doing for me what I can't do for myself, right? Like, when I surrender, then things really start to take off. But I can tell you, I've been doing 10 and 11 with my sponsor for about 5 months, 4 or 5 months now. And it's like, I couldn't hear anything. I couldn't read clearly through 10 and 11 clearly until I hit my bottom this week, and until I came here tonight, and it was like, oh. So I am hopeful. I'm really hopeful that this isn't just like a Zoomie and I'm just like super happy right now and that this is consistent. But I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that Kelly answered the phone and just let me cry and just said, at some point you're gonna have to surrender, right? And so now I'm hopeful, and I've never realized that in 10 and 11 it says ask so many times, right? And I was like, wait, it keeps saying to ask, right? It's this dialogue with my higher power, rather than me just asking and demanding. It's a dialogue, right? And that's, over time, I can build that relationship. And my sponsor always talks about how we ask for power, right? Like, we ask for the power to live. Like, this is how we live. And I have to be honest, on Monday, I did not have the will to live. I was going to drink. But today, I don't know. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you,
Oh, we'll
Nicole.
expect to see you back here next week. You'll be back. Checking on you next week, okay? Anybody else want to share? So I am gonna get some liberties going on. I am going to call on, I'm trying to see. Oh, this gentleman went off. I wanted to see Corey. Oh no, not me. Oh, I'll get you here in a moment, Joanna.
Damn it, Dawn.
What?
Hey everyone, my name is Corey. I'm an alcoholic. Kelly, that was
Hey, Corey.
wonderful. I was at a dinner earlier and I was telling him about how excited I was to go to this meeting, and it's a buddy of mine, and he was like, "No, you got to go. Just come to the meeting with me." And I was like, "No, you don't understand. Like, I've been doing this meeting for years, and it's a special Zoom. Like, it's a real special place to be able to come here and hang out with you guys and to get to hear this letter, and like just being able to continue doing this for so long, it's just a wonderful thing to hear all these different experiences. And thank you so much for everything you share. And what we'll have to probably get you to come back. Like, when they're this good, we typically have to get you to come back every once in a while. So maybe bookmark 6 or 8 months from now so we can get you back on a Thursday night, because we'd love to hear it again. But it's I'm in a place right now where it's get up in the morning, talk to God, and do what's in front of you. And it's as simple as that right now. And what you were saying about prayer, and like, I had this big idea in the beginning that like it had to be this magical, flowery sort of thing. And that like, if I wasn't like on my knees, or if I didn't just, take the time to be quiet and be away from other people, it wasn't talking to God. And then slowly but surely, this relationship begins to grow, and I can, I can take a pause for 1 second at work when I'm pissed off at somebody and be like, "Hey, God, I don't need to be doing this and thinking this in my head right now, and I would like to show some love and tolerance. Please direct me to see how that's supposed to happen." Because I'm so often, I think that it's supposed to be perfection as well. Like, there's no grading scale for this. There's not a grading scale for prayer work either, or emotional sobriety. Like, we all have today. So it's what am I doing with that relationship today? And I think it was wonderful to hear that, throughout your life and your story, that's been the connection that you've had, because that's the kind of thing that I think we're all searching and looking for. So I appreciate that so much, and thank you for calling on me, Don. Much love.
Thanks, Corey.
Thank you,
Joanna?
Corey.
I'm Joanna. I'm an alcoholic. And
Joanna, hi.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for your share. I really appreciate what you have to say. I probably do it a little bit differently, but I certainly have some very, I think you said some very important things, like the steps are extremely important, and that we have to live them. We have to do them every day. We can't just rest on our laurels and, oh, I've done that. So it's not a check mark. It's not a checkbox thing. It's a living thing. And so that's really important. And then, of course, steps 10, 11, and 12, and the AA literature. I really like the daily reflections more than the other. I don't know the other two as well, but daily reflection. Check out November 11th, just for your own curiosity. It's actually a great little, it's very short, but I think it's excellent. So, and it's AA approved, so you can't go wrong. So and to me, so the only thing I don't do as you do is that I don't believe in God. So I don't have a God, but I pray every day. I surrender every day. I do I think my program is pretty well like everybody else's, except I interpret it very differently and I talk about it differently, but that's just language, so who cares? Yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer in the steps. I always like to say that it's suggested that when you jump out of a plane, you take a parachute. Well, in my experience, if you put on a parachute or if you don't put on a parachute, you're going to get very different results. And so that's the way I feel about the steps. If I do the steps, our 12th step says, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. And I firmly believe in that, and I certainly have experienced that. I may not believe in God, but I firmly believe that I should not play God, and that this is a spiritual program, not a materialistic program. And that is kind of my guideline. I mean, my guidelines are the compass of the truth, because that is one of our principles. I mean, if you read how it works, the first whole paragraph talks about honesty. And then step one, of course, the principle behind it is honesty and humility. So you can't go wrong with honesty. And, you know, the principles of the program are a blessing to me. I'm lucky I made it, because I could have died lots of times, but I didn't. I somehow made it. And even though I say I don't believe in a higher power, well, my higher power orchestrated an alcoholic bottom that I could not ignore, and I had to, and I changed. And it gave me a great gift. It gave me the willingness to do whatever I needed to make this work. And that's priceless, because I didn't have the willingness to do whatever it takes before. I just, whatever. So now I have the willingness, and that's a huge, huge gift that I can't say enough about. So thank you, Kelli. I think you're very inspirational, and I appreciate hearing from you. I hope you do come back. And I think, yeah, the steps are where it's at, for me anyways. So thank you for that reminder, and also thank you for your whole message.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. So, Kelli, do you have anything to say before I make a few announcements?
Oh God, I just want to say thank you so much for bringing me into this beautiful meeting. What a treasure! You guys are amazing. I just want to like get a new home group so I can come to this one. I love this meeting. It's really, really powerful. And so I do appreciate the opportunity, and I'd love to come back and spend some more time with you. And hopefully I'll get a chance to do that soon. Thank you.
Well, I have news, big news, that if you come back, we're changing the reading.
I know, I'm excited.
So, let me give y'all the hot off the presses, what we're up to. So first of all, next week, if you're interested, Josh G of Al-Anon from Wyoming will be here to share with us. So, and he is going to be sharing on emotional sobriety. So won't be too shaken. Too much change in 1 week would, you know, rock the boat. But after that, Brad's coming in from some part of Colorado, up in the mountains he comes from. But on 9/15, Jim's going to share on what is going to be our new reading, which is called, we're tagging it Great Reality, the Great Reality. And it'll be from pages 53, a little bit through 55, bottom of 53 through 55 in the big book. So we're going to switch up the reading, spark some fresh dialogue, and I am really looking forward to it. And I think some other people are too. Kelli, we couldn't have asked for a better speaker. I appreciate your effort, your time. Next week, if I forget to turn on the recording, please y'all holler at me, because I did put a Post-it note, but who knows. Anyway, So we're going to close this meeting the way we typically do. We're going to sort of go silent and go into our inner room, and we'll speak to the God of our personal understanding or whatever part that plays in our life. And we'll be back in a moment. Thank you, everyone. And Nicole, we'll be seeing you next week, right?
Yes, I'll put it in my phone.
This is the right answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. And thank everyone who's in service to this group. One of our newest service persons that I didn't talk about is Maggie, and Maggie's the co-chair now. So it's not just me. Maggie's doing some behind the scenes stuff. She's probably the one that turned on the recording. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you, Kelly.
Kelly, that was wonderful.
Thanks again, Kelly.
Thank
Good night,
you,
Brand.
everybody.
Kelly.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Maggie.
Thanks.
Thanks,
We'll see you
Kelly.
next
Thanks,
week.
Kelly.
Thanks.
Hi to Brand.
South Australia. I will.
Thank you, everyone.
I'll tell them hello.
Thanks, Kelly. Good night, Dad.
Good night, John.
Good night, John Boy.
Good
Yeah,
night.
good night,
Good night,
Boy.
John
Good night,
Boy.
That's good.
John's coming
You
back.
guys are awesome.
Thank you, Kelly. That was wonderful.
Thank you, Corey. I appreciate it so much.
I got
I
to
really
see you.
do.
I got to see you at FOTS this summer.
Oh, awesome.
In passing, you probably didn't remember me. Hadn't been around long enough for you to.
Well, I'm glad you were at FOTS, and I'll know you next year.
Oh, I'll be there.
Hopefully you'll come.
I'll be
Good.
there.
Come to my pre-party.
That was the only thing I
Don
didn't
can tell
make it.
you all about it.
So, I was talking to Tom about it before the meeting today. He said, Kelly's the one that does the thing on Wednesday. You better get there next time on time. And I said, okay, Tom. All right.
Where do you live,
You
Corey?
definitely have to come.
I'm in Tennessee.
You're in Tennessee. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
Nashville.
cool.
Nashville with the Nashville group?
Cool.
Yep. But we came out there. We came out, the five of us came out there. All five of the people that were there from Tennessee were in the group that I was in.
Nice.
Awesome. It's so cool. My sister-in-law lives in Tennessee. So if I ever get out there, I'll look you up.
Oh, do and Sam it's Sam too. Sam and I would love to see you.
Yeah. That sounds great.
Were you hanging with
And
Sam?
Don,
He was my sponsor and he is my boss.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then I ran into you somewhere.
I hang out with him
Same
more
thing.
than people would probably recommend.
So I have a sponsee that just moved back to Nashville. And I'm probably going to come out there. I'm going to try to come out there in early December to actually meet her because she moved from Oregon and I've never actually met her. So maybe I'll see you then, Corey.
Yeah, come out and we'll have a dinner, and hopefully if Tom and them are in town, usually they are a little bit. Tom and Juan are usually in town around December.
Let's don't invite Sam.
Yeah, we don't have to. Yeah, he'll find a way to show up the other way. You know Sam.
Don't invite himself. Don't you show up
Like you guys invited me. What are you talking about? I don't know. I was on the invitation.
We no one invited.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Kelly, and you have a great rest of your night. And thanks, Dawn.
Glad you finally made it, Kelly.
Thank you.
See everybody later. Night, Dawn.
Me
Corey.
too. Good night,
Thanks,
you
sir,
guys.
if you're
Bye,
still
Don.
there.
Thanks again.
Bye-bye.